Hello, it's Zoe and welcome back to another video on my channel. So just like last month, I wanted to do a fun little books that I read in February video because again, I am trying to read more this year. And I will say, February being the shortest month of the year, it kind of makes sense that I read less books than in January. Also, in January, I was on winter break still, so I had a lot more free time. February, I was definitely in full-time student mode and I was kind of figuring out my rhythm once I had moved back. So that is also probably another reason why the books that I read were kind of on the smaller side. But I'm on spring break in March, and so hopefully that will help a little bit, but I honestly doubt it because honestly I have so much work to do. So it'll be interesting seeing how the number of books I read change based on kind of like how busy I am with school and stuff. So anyways, I don't have a ton of books for February, but I do have a few, so let's get into the video. Alright, so I mentioned that at the end of January I was starting to read a book, but since I didn't count it because I hadn't finished it yet. So I did end up finishing it in February, and it was called They Called Us Enemy, and it was by George Takei. And he was actually in Star Trek. He was one of the actors in Star Trek, and it was basically a graphic novel about him as a boy growing up in the internment camps during World War II. And so that I thought was really interesting, kind of seeing it from a new perspective and seeing it like as a kid, because I feel like a lot of times there are so many books out there about the Holocaust and like survivors of the Holocaust, and I feel like survivors of internment camps isn't really something that we hear about a lot or think about a lot or read about a lot. So being able to read that was really cool. And then also I read Dibs in Search of Self. So this was actually a book that was assigned to me in a class. I mentioned in my resolutions video that I was counting books that I read for classes but not like textbooks, and so this one was for my play therapy class, and it was basically a book about a researcher who was studying this boy named Dibs, and kind of exploring him through play therapy and just like all of the different things that come about, like the emotions, the themes, and kind of him discovering himself. So that's what it's called, In Search of Self. And honestly, this one was actually really cool too. Kind of when I was like reading it, I was like, oh my gosh, like is he gonna end up being like a serial killer? But it didn't end up being that way, and it was kind of just him kind of learning how to process his emotions about his family, about his parents, and just like how his parents expressed their emotions, and it was also kind of cool kind of seeing it on the other side of like his parents realizing like where they're kind of going wrong, where they can improve, and doing all of that. And then the last and final book that I read in the month of February, which I guess I technically finished it in March. But I'm going to count it for February because I read it for majority of February. Whereas like the other one, I started it at the end of January, so I finished it majority of February. So I'm still going to count this one because I feel like the fact that I read 2 books in February is kind of sad. So it was called It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth. I was trying to finish it before March, but that was like right at the start of spring break, so I was like traveling and all that. So I'm still going to count it for February. But this was another graphic novel. This one was kind of interesting. I enjoyed the like artistic style of the book. I thought it was really interesting just seeing the different portrayals, and also like the font changes I thought was interesting. The plot was kind of, honestly, I got a little confused with the plot. Like I couldn't tell it. I think it was based on a real story. Like I think it was nonfiction, but I'm not really sure. But it definitely had like a nice message near the end. And yeah, I mostly just really liked the illustrations in it. I thought they were really cool. So yeah, like I said, this was going to be a short video for the short month of the year. So I only managed to read 3 books, maybe 2 if you don't want to count that last one because I finished it in March. We'll see if I can read more in March this month. I honestly don't know because things are so busy, but I'm hoping to read some more. And so now for the reading challenge, it looks like we are at 7 out of 25 books. It's counting one book that I'm currently reading that I've technically been reading since October. So it says it's 8 of 25, but since I haven't finished it, it's 7. So 7 of 25 books, which honestly still I feel like for February being only in March, I feel like that's pretty good. So hopefully next month we'll be able to read more books, but until then, I hope you enjoyed this little video of books that I read in February. Again, it's hard when I'm a student and it's hard when I'm not like a super book nerd, so I don't like read as much as probably other students who are book nerds do, but hoping to get into more books. So yeah, that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all next week. Bye!